been going through the subreddit of Laravel and I'm still so baffled by why people are so confident enough to post posts like this and not actually get up off of their asses and just go ahead and, start learning, because these frameworks are bound to grow. If you want to use the old frameworks, you can still use them. But when new frameworks come in, Laravel 12, Laravel 13 is next year probably. Why are we talking about Jetstream being at end of life and you complaining about so many different features? Let's talk about this post right here that was posted 25 days ago upon Laravel's new structure that has been coming in through Laravel 12. The discussion: Laravel is going in the wrong direction in my honest opinion. People will probably downvote me for this and say it's a skill issue, and maybe it is, but I think Laravel is going in the wrong direction. I installed a new Laravel 12 app today, and I have no clue what the heck I'm looking at. Jetstream is end of life. Why? And the replacement starter kits come without basic things like two-factor authentication. Instead now, Laravel is pushing a third-party API called WorkOS. WorkOS claims the first million users are free until it's not and you're locked in. But I want my auth to be local, not having to rely on some third party. This should have been made optional in my honest opinion. Okay, we'll talk about that. Number 2, I'm looking at Livewire Starter Kit, which is now relying on Volt. And so now I have to deal with PHP and HTML and JS in the same file. I thought we stopped doing this back in 2004. Too much magic going on to understand basic things. The starter kit's login.blade.php has this. Okay, why is this? Why is it using an attribute for the class name? Okay, the starter kit now uses Flux for its UI instead of just plain Tailwind. Now, I don't particularly dislike Flux, but it feels this was done to push users to buy Caleb's Pro plan. It used to be so easy. Install Laravel, perhaps use a starter kit like Jetstream to quickly scaffold some auth and starter UI stuff, and then you could start building stuff on top of that. It also gives newish developers some kind of direction and sense of how things are done in the framework. It is always fairly easy to rip out Tailwind and use whatever you wanted instead too. Now it's way too complicated with Volt, Flux, no Jetstream, no Blade-only kit, unclear PHP attributes, missing HTML, PHP, JavaScript, etc. Am I the only one? And I downvoted this comment because I downvoted this post because there was a lot of heavy scrutiny I had towards it. I'll start by tackling it down very sober-mindedly because the last video that I recorded while I was reacting to this post made it seem like it's a lot of rage. But to be honest, the way I see this post right now, it's a lot of rage bait, if I'm thinking about it generally. First of all, Jetstream is not at end of life, okay? So if you go to the Starter Kits tab inside Laravel 12's documentation, you go to these frequently asked questions. You'll see them talk about the generality of how to go through the whole Starter Kit issues. But if you go ahead and look at what is actually being pushed, they're pushing Livewire. They're not pushing the Flux UI, okay? You see, the Livewire starter kit is built with Livewire 3, Tailwind, and Flux UI. As with all of our starter kits, all the backend and frontend code exists within your application to allow for full customization. With Jetstream, you were not allowed all those different things, okay? It got me so bugged. How I had to customize two-factor authentication for the different authenticative guards that I created in my startup. And if you go into my Coding a Startup series, you'll definitely be able to see it. Now, if you go back to what they're talking about inside this, being able to start with the starter kit customization, all right, they enable it so that you can be able to customize each and every single step. If you go into your Laravel document and see what is going on inside the scenes, if I go to my login.blade.php, I can be able to customize what is going on with my login. In Jetstream, you couldn't do that. You could not do that. And you see, now here's the thing, yeah? Because two-factor authentication has not been coming out right out of the box, You can definitely customize that two-factor authentication to actually see what it is that you need to be able to do inside your application. You can do it for multiple authentication codes. I have tested it, and I even have an application that's using two-factor authentication right out of the starting point. So you can definitely see you have two-factor authentication over here, show QR code, scan the QR code, enter the code generated by the app, enable two-factor authentication. And I'm just going to actually test it right now. So I'm going to take my phone, go to my Google Authenticator, okay? And I'm just going to scan this, scan the QR, all right? And then I have the QR code right here at the bottom, if you can see my screen, right there. And now I'm just going to come in here and do the code itself, 042608, although it will change in a few. And then I click on enable two-factor authentication, and now you can either disable it if you want. And now if I log out, I'll log out, okay? And I can come in here and log in again, okay? And now, of course, I'll just put the remember token. But now that that has been done, you can see that I have my two-factor authentication. Of course, there's some things I've not edited over here, but I can edit. And then you can see the one-time password. And the one-time password is coming in from here, position right there. Yeah, and it's 327885. So 327885, and I hit enter, and it just verifies, and I'm logged in. So that is essentially what you need to go forward. And you can come in here, disable the two-factor authentication if you want to, and you can come in here and go to the settings, and you can go and log out, and then you can come in here and just do this instantly, and you're logged in without two-factor authentication. So it's that simple. It's really step-by-step processes that you need to understand, and you generally don't have to go to Reddit and say, okay, two-factor authentication has been made complicated because I have to install it manually. I installed it manually in less than an hour, and it's very easy. I'll actually even go ahead and do a tutorial about it. I think it's going to be a 25 to 40-minute tutorial, just because I'm walking through the step-by-step procedures of how to make this happen. But to go on to this and talk about how, how the new Laravel 12 is just pure nonsense. First of all, Jetstream is still active. You can still use Jetstream as long as you go into your Laravel HUD, okay? And then you go to your open sites, and then you come in here and create a new site, and you have no starter kit, React, Vue, Livewire. The next thing that he talked about is this WorkOS thing claims that the first million users, and then he said that he just wants his authentication to be local, not having to rely on some third party. And you can definitely do that. You can see, you can choose between Laravel's built-in authentication or WorkOS, depending on whatever it is that you're building. And the third thing that he's mentioned also is that this should have been made optional. Like I've shown you, it is optional. I'm looking at Laravel's Livewire starter kit, which is now relying on Volt. So now I have to deal with PHP and HTML and JS in the same file. I thought to stop doing this back in 2004. Now look at Volt and look at what it's going to be happening inside Volt. Volt, what it does here, it's elegantly crafted functional API for Livewire that supports single file components, allowing a component's PHP logic and Blade templates to coexist in the same file. Behind the scenes, the functional API is compiled to Livewire classes, components, and linked with the template present in the same file. A simple Volt component looks like this. But now one thing that somebody would wonder is that, okay, so Volt is just Volt. Look at where I've gotten Volt from. I've gotten it from Livewire's documentation, meaning that Volt requires Laravel Livewire to work, but not vice versa. Okay? So which means you can actually come into your docs and create Livewire components, just like I have created over here, and it has its corresponding class inside. Please don't get to this notion of Laravel, Livewire, and Volt are different and different packages. And once a system is using Volt, it cannot use normal Livewire. It can. I can even change my login.blade.php to use normal Livewire instead of using the Volt API. Another thing that I can talk about over here is that the starter kit now uses Flux for its UI instead of just plain Tailwind. And this is absolutely false. Flux is just an installed package inside the starter kit. Okay, don't get it twisted as though you can't use any other Livewire package or you can't use anything else, right? Instead of the Tailwind. And then he's talked about how he doesn't particularly dislike Flux, fine, but it feels that it was done to push users to buy Caleb's Pro plan. Fair, it's a fair assessment. But here's the thing that you need to also understand. Tailwind is also not free in some certain situations. If you want to bring in some of the older, some of the other components inside the UI, you can't bring it in without actually having to buy the Pro plan for Tailwind. Okay? If we want to talk about a free CSS framework that has been in the works with Laravel for a long as time, then we're going to talk about Bootstrap. But here's the thing. Laravel needs to make money. Okay, we can't be having these guys code out all these different things for us, okay, and then expect it to all be free and open source without them actually making any income. I mean, why did they come up with Laravel Cloud and make it, a certain way of usability? Why did they come up with all these different packages like, I mean, I don't know, all these different, like if we talk about Laravel's ecosystem, okay, let's talk about Laravel's ecosystem and see which ones are free and which ones are not. So we have products over here, and you see Cloud is not free. Forge is not free. Okay, you can see plans, of course, from 0.00 a month, but you need to test the Cloud before you actually deploy it for production. You have Forge, you have Nightwatch, we have Nova. Nova is not free in its own right, and it's just a dashboard. Okay, so I think most people need to actually get out of the notions of why it is that people are actually pushing for products to be purchased. Products need to be purchased for people to make money and continue making very nice products for us. I can't afford Flux right now, but if I could, I would buy Flux. He said that it used to be so easy. Install Laravel, perhaps use the starter kit like Jetstream to quickly scaffold some auth and starter UI stuff, and then you can start building stuff on top of that. It also gave newish developers some kind of direction and sense of how things are done in the framework. Incorrect, but I will get into that. It also was always fairly easy to rip out Tailwind and use whatever you wanted to use. Now it's way too complicated with Vault, Flux, no Jetstream, no Blade only kit, unclear PHP attributes, mixing PHP, HTML, and JS, etc. Am I the only one? There are two things that I would like to point out over here. The beauty about this post is that you get to realize that it's actually a skill issue and not an issue with Laravel per se, because you can also easily rip out whatever UI is being used inside Vault. You can actually even change from Vault and use normal Livewire. You can actually not use all of these and actually go ahead and use this, ladies and gentlemen, new Laravel project, and you can just go into no starter kit and then use whatever it is that you want. You could as well create your own starter kit and actually import it from here using the very nice area over here that has been released for us. So you can just release your starter kit into the packages and then bring it in and it can be used. And that's why I created also the Bootstrap starter point that was in some few videos back. You can check the cards. I was predicting that this would happen. Okay, I would predict that this would happen and that the starter kits will be also handed over to the communities to improve and also to actually start using various ways of, crafting out new UI for the rest of the community to use. Free or not free, I don't know. It just doesn't matter at this point. You just need to learn how to code. And I've just shown you levels at which you can go ahead and take this component over here called Pragmarks, Google 2FA QR code, and use it in Laravel Livewire's starter kits like so. Go to the two-factor authentication, show the QR code, scan it, enable two-factor, let it run. So ladies and gentlemen, this is not the mindset that you need to be an elite developer. That's what I'm just going to say. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm the elitist of the elite, but I'm just going to tell you that this is not the mindset to get to where I am right now myself. Yes, I will say that this is probably a skill issue, just like he said over here. And I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, I implore you, explore what it is that you can do with your coding capabilities. Don't just create note apps. Don't just create blog posts. Don't just create all these different things and expect that now the elitist of the elite companies are going to look for you just because you could create a notes app. Go ahead and create something stupendous. Go ahead and look at different ways to explore user experience. Like, for example, I struggled with this because of the basic thing that was, let me actually just show it to you, ladies and gentlemen. The basic thing that I struggled with in this application, okay, let's just log in here, 485, 251, and just enable two-factor authentication and then log out. I show you what it is that we had struggled with. The one main struggle over here is, yes, we'll log in, okay? And once we log in, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. This is 6 different inputs, okay? These are 6 different inputs for the one-time password. And the one thing that you need to understand is that you can also struggle in creating this because you have to also enable it such that one value is only going to be keyed in, okay? And once one value is also keyed in, you move on to the next automatically, such that you can start typing in, like let's say my numbers over here are 747356, and then you also have to work on the user experience such that if you press enter, it's going to click on the verify button without actually having to make sure that you focus on the verify button. And that's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. User experience, user functionality, finding quick ways to use whatever technologies that you have at hand to be able to craft out the simplest and fastest solution going round. So ladies and gentlemen, I will leave it at that. Whatever it is that you guys can sift out in the comments, please do. And whatever it is that you guys think about, whatever it is that I've said, I implore you, just go ahead in the comment section, challenge me as much as you can, and let's get the ball rolling, ladies and gentlemen. As for this tutorial for the two-factor authentication, I will definitely do the next video on this, and it will be coming out tomorrow. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll be seeing you then. Please do indeed take care. And as always, may God bless you all.